values are the most important thing by far. There's nothing else that comes even close.
One thing I always advise when I'm coaching people and coaching companies on how to interview is always sit down.
Then it's something that I mentioned already, and it's something that I had to learn in a very hard way, which is
Any advice
sure.
for people there?
I don't want to give up all my secrets. I want to give away stuff, but yeah, I think for anybody who aspires to become a leader, I think one of the biggest things you will need to learn is how not to code anymore.
Hello and welcome to the Behind the Blockchain podcast. Today I'm joined by Leon Dolinar, Director of Technology at Energi Core. Leon, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm great, thank you, Jack. How are you been?
Yeah, I'm great, thank you. I'm great. So, Leon, for people who don't know who you are, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Leon. I am Director of Technology at Energi. Energy is a blockchain organization that started in 2017. Uh, and yeah, so basically, if you look at my profile, you'll notice that actually my title is VP of Engineering, but that doesn't matter. It's all the same. Titles are not really that important. Um, but yeah, I started. The interesting part about this is that I started as a community manager, and I went all the way
Interesting.
from community management to actually leading a team of talented engineers. So there you go.
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting route. So, how did you talk us through that? How did you kind of get to that point, going from community through to engineering?
Yeah, I think one of the things that was very interesting for me is what Energy was building at the time. And before that, I was actually mining Monero and Ethereum. So, I was already familiar with how things function in terms of blockchain, but I was super interested in, what they were building. And so I just joined their Discord and, you know, chatted with a bunch of people there, and it was actually a great community already. Like they had built already a great community. And one day I get a call from Tommy, who is our CEO, and he's like, "Hey, would you like to join our team?" And it was just around their first anniversary. So what really happened, what kind of propelled my rise, let's say, in kind of funny way to the position I'm in today, is that this was supposed to happen on Monday, and on Saturday, when I got a call from Tommy, I'm asking all of those people who were in charge, "Hey, um where's the plan for the anniversary? Is there any plan?" And they're like, "No, we're just gonna hang around in Discord for 24 hours." I'm like, "Okay, well, that's great, but don't we have anything prepared?" And then I get no answer. And on Sunday, I just start like writing a document, and I pretty much come up with games and what sort of things we could play. uh,
Yeah.
and for some reason everybody was on board. Like, everybody just looked at the document and they were like, "Okay, let's go." And that's what happened. We had a 24-hour straight, with no sleep, of games, fun,
Wow.
and yeah, that's how I started. And then afterwards, obviously, they realized I was a programmer. And with I took on some challenges that they had. And after their previous director of technology left, I just assumed the role. uh, I didn't want it, by the way.
Okay.
I really didn't. I didn't feel I was ready. But they sort of like, they did the old style. They just pushed you in it, and I had to learn how to swim. So, and now I feel way more comfortable, and it became my kind of second nature in this. So yeah, that's kind of my path into this.
Wow. And did you always know that you wanted to go into engineering management, or was it just something you kind of fell into?
I think I fell into it more than I never really aspired to lead a bunch of people. Like, it wasn't wasn't something that I ever thought of. But once
Mhm.
you're in a position where you have to, when you wake up and there's like 25 people waiting for you to say something, you got to say something. You
Yeah,
have to do something. So in that kind of moment, at first it's probably like riding a bicycle, right? You At first you're just sort of trying to stay in balance and not break your knees, and then eventually you learn how to pedal properly, and then it becomes your second nature, and it's just day to day becomes normal, just like anything else. And then eventually you come to a point where I'm at, where you're comfortable with this, where you understand when you should intervene, for example, with software, where you shouldn't, and so on. So yeah.
for sure. So, how did your mindset have to change then from being an engineer one day to then being kind of pushed into leading the team the next? How did your mindset have to change to be able to then make sure that you were comfortable in that position?
Yeah, I think for anybody who aspires to become a leader, uh, I think one of the biggest things you will need to learn is how not to code anymore. It's so hard, because sometimes you'll see a solution to a problem that you could code in 15 minutes, but you will have to delegate it. And the real reason behind it is because there are bigger problems that you're dealing with. So you'll be dealing with much, not only more important but larger issues that will need your brain power. And so all of these small things that you could actually solve in 15 minutes, you're just going to have to delegate to somebody else, and let them do that. So, and I think that restraint, that when you see it and you're like, just let it go, let it go, give it to somebody else.
No, I think that's good. I think it can be difficult to give up ownership of the different tasks that you do, and yeah, being able to get delegate to someone. But I guess that means you then have to really trust the team around you to be able to delegate that to them. Um, was that something that you had to kind of build, or did you already have people around you that you trusted that you could pass work over to?
Yeah, I I think we can expand this a little bit, but I would say it 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 goes all the way from hiring, right? Because what you really want is to hire people whose values are aligned with the organization's values. And so if that is the case, then you will not have a problem with trust, because you will already assume that if they're working according to your company's uh, value structure, then you don't have to worry about that. um, but then if you make wrong decisions when hiring, then that obviously can surface as an issue later on. So I think at first it's very hard, right? Because you don't know if people will be able to execute in the same manner as you can, or in the
Yeah,
same on same level of quality, right? I think that is something you worry as a leader, but then you just got to let it go at one point. And I think it's also a correcting process, because at first, for example, your style, the way you build product, may not be the same as somebody else's, right? um and then there's also another thing. Oftentimes you will hire people who are smarter than you, and so you have to learn how to trust that they, because they are smarter than you in that specific field, you just have to trust them that what they're doing is the correct thing. And yeah, and and then because at the end of the day, like the only really output you get is some sort of analytics, feedback and stuff like that, from from customers, from users, from the community. So
yeah,
so yeah, that's sort of your feedback loop. But in general, yeah, it's also something you got to learn. Like, the trusting people is something you got to learn. It doesn't come naturally. I mean, it can go the other
yeah.
way, where you trust them too much, and then you get burnt. So you need to find the right balance.
I agree. So what else did you have to learn then through your career to reach the point where you are now? Both on the technical side and the softer side, are there any other skills which you really needed to develop that have really helped you along the way?
Um, yeah. So on the technical side, I don't think there's more to say than what already exists in the tech sector. I mean, if you're a Golang programmer, learn Golang inside out. If you're TypeScript backend developer, learn it inside out. If you're I don't know if you're working on databases with SQL, learn it inside out. So on technical, there's really no magic sauce, nothing to share. It's all the same as it has been for, I don't know, last 50 years. Um, well, maybe one thing that has changed over the years is that, when I started out, you could literally take just one language. Let's say when I started out, PHP was very um, popular in terms of developing some kind of backend for websites. And you learn PHP, and you will have a job for the next 10 years easily, like no problem at all. Today it could be a little bit difficult, right? So you need to stack your knowledge a little bit more. So you can't just have PHP and nothing else. You need maybe PHP and JavaScript, or you need, I don't know, Solidity as smart contracts and some front end, knowledge of React. So you can
Yeah.
walk into, let's say, a hiring procedure with zero knowledge of front end but know everything about back end. Like it's gonna it may backfire, not necessarily, but it may backfire, right, today. So if there's one thing that I can say is, like, if you are in this industry, you may already notice that, employers will ask for some kind of stack. So it's not just one single thing. On the soft side, this one is very difficult, and the reason I say this is, um, there is no real way um, to learn how to be a leader. Like there's no manual. Like there's no manual where you open, oh, how to be a leader book, and then you open it up, you read through all the chapters, and you close the book and say, like, yes, I'm a leader now, let's go. I don't think I don't I don't think it exists, because if it did exist, then we would have way more leaders in the world. We'll have a much more beautiful and undivided world today. um so so I would say, in terms of soft skills, just learn how to communicate clearly. I think that's important. One thing that helped me a lot is taking very complex subjects, breaking them down into simple analogies that are way more approachable for people who aren't as technical as I am, for example. And that certainly helped with, at least in my case. One other thing is, learn how to appreciate people's input. So be open-minded, and then take their ideas from the concept all the way to the actual production. So let's say that, you're in an all hands meeting. You have, I don't know, 20 devs, even though that's maybe not a good idea to have such big meetings, but let's say you do. um, and then somebody comes up with a fantastic idea, and everybody's like, yeah, let's do this. And then, even if it deviates a little bit from, what you yourself thought initially as a leader, like, don't shy from it. Just take it on board and run with it, because when when people naturally get motivation from their own ideas, they will do it in a way more happier way. They'll be way more excited than if you kind of ram it down their throat. Hey, you have to do this. And yeah, so I find it's more like that. Like, listen, and try to learn what everybody's saying, and then, make those decisions in such a way, with an open mind.
So, based on what you said previously about being able to take really complex problems and then learn how to then shorten them down into smaller analogies, how did you go about teaching yourself how to do that? Is there somewhere you went to learn it? Did you learn tons and tons about the problem and then learn how to shorten it down? How did you develop that skill?
I think it involves a lot of reading, um, and and not by reading I don't mean books. So one of the things you'll notice in today's world is that people will give you these suggestions or read this book, that book on Twitter and stuff like that. Um, it works if you're selectively reading. And so what I mean by this is that you find chapters that apply to you. Um, if you read the whole book, sometimes you'll feel a little bit overwhelmed because you will get so much information that you'll not know what to do with it. But if you selectively read something and then even reread some chapters, you'll be able to better figure out what the author really meant with that, or what the subject is really about. And for me, what I often do is I read a lot of technical stuff. Like they're usually short articles or short, I don't know, some sort of technical breakdowns. And somebody asked me like, how many pages have you read in the last month? And I tell them 2 pages, and they're like, oh, you don't read at all. I'm like, well, try reading those 2 pages and tell me if you understand the math and all of that stuff behind it, right? Because it's super difficult. Like for every paragraph you spend like, I don't know, next 2 hours just googling around and figuring out what it really means. So
Mhm.
so and then what happens to me, in at least in my head, is like, okay, I understand the abstraction of this, but how does this apply to our world? Like, how can we apply it, right? It's the same as, for example, cryptography, right? So you have cryptography, everybody knows how it works, but in principle, but how do you apply it, right? And here we go, now we have blockchains, right? So there is a practical application of cryptography. um, and same is with very complex situations. If you read, let's say, many articles or many chapters, uh, you will you'll find some resemblance of that. And so what you'll be able to alter, maybe some of those examples that you read in the book, and apply them to that specific problem, and then maybe it will crystallize. Sometimes you miss, sometimes you also miss, like you try to make an analogy and you completely miss, and like, maybe that wasn't the best example. um,
Yeah.
but oftentimes what I'm the most fascinated by is the solutions themselves. Um, and I tend to go for, what's the most brilliant solution. Um, and this reminds me, so I'm going to give you now a live example of this. Like, let's say we were solving some difficult problem, and people, didn't understand, like, how we came to solution, but now people don't understand what the solution means. And so I would tell them, okay, think about it this way. Let's say we need to write on a piece of paper in space, right? So, but you want to do it with a pen, right? So you could spend, I don't know how many millions of dollars, of taxpayers' dollars, to invent a pen that is going to do that in space, or you could just take a pencil, you know,
Yeah.
and you solve that problem, So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
By the way, this is an example. I mean, this is a online rumor. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but actually, that NASA spent like, I don't know how many. I think over in excess of $100 million to create like space pen, but then Russians just use
Yeah.
pencil. It's something stupid like that. But in any case, it exemplifies this way of thinking, right? So another thing that I once said is, we were discussing, like, what if we get cyber attacked, like, very hard on one of the machines that doesn't necessarily have to be up, online all the time. And then we were talking about some firewalls and, how we should set up the infrastructure behind it. I said, no, just plug it off. It's a simple solution, is the best. Just plug it off. If it doesn't have to be online, what's the problem? so,
Yeah.
so, and the beauty of these solutions is that, let's say, if you have a system set up in the way they're automated. What I mean by this is that you have it set up in a way that they're going to automatically spawn somewhere else. So in such situations, what's the problem? You just turn it off and you spawn it somewhere else on a different IP, and boom, you're back. in a few seconds. And that's the beauty of such solutions. And you know reading, let's say, technically difficult stuff, but then translating them into something very simple, very easy to understand.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. I like that. So why did you initially take an interest in Web3 and blockchain then? How did that come around?
um yeah, so since I was a little kid, and I'm not joking when I say that, when I was about like 11, I think, maybe 11 or 12 years old, I've discovered cryptography. And there were some challenges online, about kind of cracking you know cryptographic ciphers and stuff like that. And then I also discovered something called steganography, which is very similar, but instead of concealing, because in cryptography you're concealing some sort of text, right, or some sort of information. But in steganography, you're using like audio, video, other media. And so
Okay.
since cryptography is used to secure blockchain data, it was sort of a natural fit for me. Um and then on the other hand, right, so I really loved following financial world. Maybe since I was like 17 years old, I started kind of gain interest into stocks and derivatives, options, and other financial instruments. So when I
Okay.
saw like this combination of two, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. We're finally getting somewhere. So yeah, that's what got me in.
Cool. Cool. And you haven't looked back ever since.
Yeah, I don't think it's a beautiful space. I don't see a reason why to go out of it, because I've worked in what I call a traditional or legacy tech, let's say, sector, and it's not exciting at all. It is like you just go to a cubicle, you do your thing, you hit the keyboard, you clock in, you clock out. Nobody ever notices you if you're in a bigger company. It's a weird thing, but here you're sort of surrounded with people, with community. You're there all the time. You have your Discord, you have your Telegram, you have your you're connected, and it's a completely different feeling. And that excitement never goes away. And I think it's way better than just I don't know. That legacy idea of just do your job and keep your head down. Like I think that is slowly dying, and we're in general becoming more and more decentralized. In the same way, like you're doing podcasts, right? It's a decentralized thing. Like I've you know, so so yeah, I don't think this is unless something really more exciting comes along, which I don't know what that could be at the moment. Yeah, I don't think we're leaving this space for a really long time.
No, that's cool. That's cool. So could you talk us through your current role then, and what that looks like? Talk it through in a little bit more detail. What's a day in the life of you working at Energy in Web3? What does that look like?
I'd say it varies a lot from day to day, and it really depends on what are we solving. Um, I would say that due to the nature of the organization, which I would say the majority of Web3 organizations are startups. I obviously wear many hats, and yeah, generally speaking, you always want to tackle the hardest problem first, uh, and then go to those that need a little less attention. But on a day-to-day basis, yeah, I would say maybe I can describe like a day, and
Yeah,
that's
that'd be
gonna kind
good.
of clarify this better. Yeah, so basically, you wake up, and the first thing is that you're happy that your organization is still alive. You didn't get hacked overnight. So you're still there. uh and then you log into your Slack, and there's like, at least in my position, there's like 100 messages, waiting for you, not more,
Yeah.
depending.
And then
Yeah.
you close your Slack.
Yeah. Yeah. um yeah, it's every single day. No, I do this different. So a lot of people will tell you they'll do exercise first, but what I do first is I check my messages because I want them to linger in my head. So I will just kind of go through what I think is the most important and save others for later.
Mhm.
Then I'll do my exercise, my my running, my lifting, whatever I'm doing for my body. So health, everybody, that should be your priority number one. So take care of yourself. Um, and then after that, so what I do is I always check my to-do list. I identify which of the items are the most important, and then I go and just do that, and I let everybody else wait. And I don't care if they have to, even if they're not happy about waiting. If something is very important and needs to be solved, that's it. That's what I'm doing. um,
Okay.
so and then you work on that, and you move down the list. The list is endless, so you're never gonna burn through everything. So at one point you gotta call it quits, and make revisit your to-do list, add new items, or delegate some items away, and that's it. And then the day repeats, and that's how it is. And it's full of everything. Like, obviously, I'm skipping a lot of things here, but uh, there's a lot of interventions in the day as well. Like when something breaks, and you got to jump in, you got to fix it. Or I don't know, let's say that one of your DevOps guys is not available at the moment. You just got to know how to log in into servers and restart something. Or so
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of such things. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's my day.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And could you introduce us to energy in a little bit more detail, please?
Yeah, sure. So I already mentioned before that energy started in 2017. um, and the idea was to build a governance into the protocol layer. um, so I think a lot of people in Web3 space are familiar with governance, but the way they're familiar with the governance is through the ERC20 tokens. So, for example, let's say you have a, I don't know, sushi swap or something, and then they have their own token, and then through that token you can, I don't know, vote on some things, or So, however, energy is different in a sense that this entire mechanism is built into the protocol, so it's a part of the blockchain itself. Um, and instead of having layer two as let's say some kind of zk rollup or something like that, our layer two are master nodes. So it's a little bit different system. Now the history goes something like this. So energy was first a fork of Dash, and Dash was the first one to introduce the governance, in the UTXO model. So on top of blockchain, on top of Bitcoin. And then as Ethereum was gaining more and more traction, the idea was to migrate this entire system from UTXO model to account based model, and EVM compatibility. So what we did is we forked Ethereum, and and wrote all of those functions in Solidity, so smart contracts, and all of that is connected, on a layer one. And so obviously the question is, what's the difference? What's the real difference between, let's say, Energy and Ethereum? And so
Yeah.
the difference is this. So on Ethereum, because you don't have any governance, you have no control over anything. So if I send some funds in error to somebody else, like, there's no way for me to retrieve them back. It's impossible. On Energy, that actually exists because you have governance. So what you do is you issue a proposal, and you say, like, okay, I sent from this to this address in error, and I would like participants in the network who are masternodes. So if you have a masternode, you can vote. So you're voting with your feet, and you can actually help pass this proposal. And if the proposal passes, the funds are frozen, um, and drained from that address and moved back to, the original address. So that is
Oh,
the process. Yeah. So now, obviously, I know that some hardcore people are gonna say like, "Oh, yeah, but this isn't really, that's not the ethos of blockchain." Maybe yes, maybe no. I do believe that, governance has its purpose. So if you have participants who want to, let's say, secure their funds in a way that they are not, that they are safe, so they can go to sleep and not think about it, because they know that, if anything happens, nobody can really take away your funds. Then
yeah.
I think that's a great feature to have. So yeah, that I would say is a generally energy in a nutshell.
That sounds cool. I wonder how many people have lost funds by sending them to the wrong addresses that would have loved the ability to be able to kind of recall those. Be interesting
Oh,
to find out.
I'll up the ante on this one. How many bridges have been hacked on Ethereum for hundreds of millions of dollars that could have
Yeah.
easily just, on energy, they would just issue a proposal, and for less than $10 in value, they would get the proposal through, and they would get their millions back. and
That's
and
crazy. Yeah, save a lot of
yeah,
money.
yeah, it still kind of baffles my mind why people are not using energy. I don't know. It's a little bit strange, but okay. If you people like losing money so much, go ahead. you know, if you love.
So anyone listening, use energy.
Yeah, I mean, look. So one of the things that we've done is, and I personally contributed to this, so I know how this looks like. We eliminated virtually like 99% of all crime on energy. Like there used to be scammers, like just like they're on Ethereum, just like they're on any blockchain, but now there are none.
Mm,
Like there's just nobody there. Like everybody just gave up because they couldn't get anything out, so they just gave up. So
that's good.
so yeah.
I like that. So what does it take to work at business like energy then?
Um. Well, you gotta have technical skills. Well, if we're talking about technology, obviously you need technical skills. You need a little bit of soft skills, and that's mostly in communication. Um,
Hmm.
if if you have other interests, obviously different other skills. I don't know. I would say energy. One department where we really lacked a lot, I would say, over the years is marketing, because a lot of people have never heard of energy, even though that at one point we were, I think, top 40 on CoinMarketCap. And and it's interesting to me that nobody, like, even when I talk to some other Web3 projects, like, they've never heard of us. So it seems that we haven't really done a great job at marketing. So I think that is something that would if you have a marketing in you, and you have a project that has a, that has a product that's working, and you want to help build it, then this is your biggest opportunity ever, because energy has fallen to, I think it's only like $5 million of market cap. So this is you're at the bottom. So if you want your spaceship to go up, here you go, here's your chance, take it.
Not financial advice. Just
Yeah,
have
not
to
financial
put
advice.
that in
Yep, yep.
there.
Do your own research, not
So
financial advice.
so what about the mindset and the values of someone to come and work with you? Because I know we've spoken before about making sure that people have the same values or um, same beliefs or pointing in the right direction. What about the values of someone to come and work with you at Energy Core?
Yeah, one thing that I think in general we pride ourselves the most is that people are very transparent, honest, direct, um, that they provide value, uh, and often this thing is thrown around. You'll hear it a lot, right? You like we want people who provide value, and then it's so abstract that
Yeah.
it's sort of like when somebody asks, so what do you mean by that? um, and at least to me, what this represents is that if you're given a task, and you were supposed to do it, then do it. And if you didn't do it, then say why you didn't do it and why you need more time. Be proactive in your endeavor. Don't sit on it. Don't wait until somebody has to uh slap you on your back and say like, hey, how's it going? Like, you're quiet here in your cubicle, say
Yeah.
something. I think that's very important, and I think this is something that people need to learn. So I would say, if there's one thing that's very important, is autonomy, right? So, and that actually fuses all of these things, which is, you'll work on things. um, don't clock things you don't work for ever, because people will quickly find out. And I've seen this happen a lot, where people clock a lot of hours but they don't actually work them, and then becomes a problem. And then
Well.
you're in a position where you know it's not fun for anybody. um
Mm.
so yeah, and then be responsible for things, right? So what does that mean? It means that, if you say you're going to do something, then do it. And if you, again, I'm just repeating myself, if you don't do it, just be proactive in communicating, what blocked you. Or if something is blocking you,
Yeah.
say it right away so that people can unblock you. So yeah, I would say those are the core values, that exist, and that have to be there. um so yeah.
Cool. Cool. And what are some of the common mistakes that you see people make when they come to interview with you? Just any advice that you can pass on to anyone listening who's looking for either a role in Web3 or looking to kind of further their career? Any common mistakes that you'd love to see people change or eradicate from their interviewing style?
Common mistakes. um well, I'll put it more generally, because it all boils down to some basics. um
Okay.
so I need to talk more from my experience than how things should be, because I think that there's a big difference here between theory and practice. Because in theory we
Mm.
all want everything to be perfect, and sometimes it is. Most time it's a little bit messy. um,
Yeah.
uh, but the mistakes people make is that, one, they come unprepared. uh, Number two, they get into things a little bit nonchalant, as if like, hey bro, how's it going? Like, I don't know, like, y- yeah, it's okay, I guess. um in a way, but it's a little bit weird, because you're trying to leave your best impression, right? And if this is your best
Mm.
impression, that you're coming into an interview, you're unprepared, you're scrambling, you know like, that's not, like, you should be better than that. um
Mhm.
and then um and then I one thing that I started terminating interviews, when people wouldn't turn on their camera, or they wouldn't share their screen. I'd be like, that it's over. Like, you don't want to share your screen? Like, you're a programmer? Like, how are we going to do this then? I'm just
Yeah.
about to blindly trust you on your, you're saying here that you're coding. I can hear your keyboard, you're hitting your keyboard, but I can't see anything. So what do I know? Maybe you're just asking Chat GPT to write code for you. So I don't know. Is and I don't want to blindly trust these things. I want to see some proof. um So like bitcoiners say, right? So don't trust, verify, right?
Yeah.
So it's something like that. So yeah, it's a lot of basic stuff for me. uh,
Okay.
and if those basic uh, s- stuff are not covered, I feel like that's a big red flag, and I tend to shy away from then going into anything more.
Okay. Cool. Do you think working in Web3 has changed how you interview, or has maybe changed your perspective on how companies should hire or how you should hire?
Sort of.
Okay.
I've had I've had some ideas as to what would be the best way to organize a company.
Okay.
um like like if it was my own company, but it turns out that the core principles actually are still there. Like, the core principles of organization, like finances, process, and so on.
Mhm.
What's different in Web3 or remote work, is that roles are very specific and require different type of approach. So there's also different things in hiring, right? um, s- I I would say that some things remain the same in terms of the way things are proctored. So in a technical interview, so in like I said before, in a traditional way, you're gonna have people watching over you, right? In Now we have cameras, right? So you're gonna have you're gonna you're gonna share your screen, you're gonna turn on your webcam. um,
Mhm.
but then there are some other things that are different, which is, um, I think there's less formality, and it's more to the point. I feel like if I go to an interview for brick and mortar, it's always a suit and a tie. It's always everything's kind of formal. It feels a little bit. It's kind of like a script, right? um,
Yeah.
but but here we it's like, okay, I'm in a t-shirt, you're in a t-shirt. Okay, you want a job, I'm hiring. Okay, here are my requirements, show me what you got. And that's it. Let's go. And we
Mhm.
talk just like you and I talk right now. And if we click, if we connect, and you show me some skill, well, here's your 99% of chance I'm gonna pass you through to the next round. um, so I would say that that's a little bit different.
For sure. For sure. So could you talk me through, I know you briefly touched on it, but talk me through how you evaluate someone through an interview process. So for anyone who's maybe going into engineering leadership for the first time and they're building a team, how do they go about evaluating someone? And I know that's quite a big question, by the way. Any advice for people
Sure,
there?
I don't want to give up all my secrets. I want to give away stuff, but no, just kidding, just kidding. There are no secrets, to be honest. I think so. I want to break it down in a simple way, and then maybe expand on some. So the short listing is, as the usual. You have resumes. You have your recruiters. They shorten the list. They put a few in front of you. You look at their achievements. You look at what did they do. You kind of try to get a idea whether they fit, what they're applying for. And if they do, you start them. And once that period is over, you look at your list and you go like, okay, let's go, let's interview these people. So in the interview itself, because it's not live in person. So I think that the what you're looking for is a little bit of a nonverbal cues. How they react to some of your questions, the way they think about certain problems, their creativity. Uh, and then one of the things that a lot of people forget is that how th- they forget to be genuinely curious about the position and enthusiastic. It's it's a little bit weird thing, because generally I think tech people aren't super upbeat and all happy unicorns, rainbows, and all that stuff. Um but at the same time, give me a smile. If I'm interviewing you for 1 hour and you're just like there with a wall, nothing, no emotion, it's a little bit weird, because I'm always thinking, okay, am I gonna, because my general rule of thumb is that if I can't work with you in, you're giving me your best through the interview, right? You're giving me your best because this is your
Mm.
best, your best behavior you're ever gonna exert. So if you're giving me the best now and I can't connect with you, I don't see myself working with you for the next 5 years. I don't even want to continue here. There's no point. And
Yeah.
so I think these are the sort of, I would say, differences in between like traditional and what we have now in in a remote setting. um so yeah, other things like I mentioned before, it's thinking creatively, because we are working remotely, right? So the solutions are going to be different, right? Because when you're in a physical space, you're limited by the physics, but when you're in a remote, you're only limited by virtual. So, and virtual
Mhm.
is way way wider, so how do you express your creativity in that sort of space is also very important. So if I see somebody who actually, again, we're going back to that, who's enthusiastic, has ideas, and this actually connects to the product that we are building, well, there you go. That's a perfect combination. So, you know um
Yeah.
so yeah, I think that sort of rounds it up. I wouldn't go more than that, because then I would already be giving you're gonna I was giving you cheat codes a little bit too much for the candidates.
If someone watches this and then comes to interview with you, they know exactly what to say and what to do. So no, I
Yeah, yeah.
appreciate that. Um, so I know we've spoken before. I know you're big in making sure that people have the right values, and obviously I know that you look for certain values in people and things like this. You don't have to go into what those values are, because I know you don't want to give away the codes for them to be able to pass your interviews. One thing I always advise when I'm coaching people and coaching companies on how to interview is always sit down prior to when they start interviewing, going, right, what type of person do we want in the business? What type of key skills are going to be the key skills, as you said before, Golang, JavaScript, Solidity, whatever it is. But actually, the values and what the person needs to show and this kind of things. I always say to people, get that ironed out before you start the interview process. At least then you can create questions around those different values and ask people to show you, give you examples and things. So you can actually interview based on behavior and past experience as opposed to just kind of guessing through the interview process. What part do you feel that values play in that team building and kind of management process?
Yeah, I think you already touched on it, and in your own words, I'm just gonna emphasize this a little bit more, um,
Okay.
which is I think values are the most important thing by far. Yeah, there's nothing else that comes even close. Um, if your values as an employee are not aligned, you'll quickly get caught. Like it's just, you won't be able to do fake it till you make it thing. At least not in Web3. Maybe you'll do that in, I don't know, real estate, and as a car salesman. You'll not make it here. It's gonna quickly show.
Yeah.
And I've seen it happen, time and time again. Uh, so people sometimes fake it, and it's a sad state of affairs when you do that. Be honest with yourself. Ask yourself, what are your values when you're applying, and if those values are aligned with the organization you're applying for, then
Mm.
you have actually a very high level, high chance of success. And the reason is because you may be surprised that people will hire you maybe you lack skills, but they'll be like, okay, this guy is exactly, he's speaking just like us. He's saying stuff that makes sense, and if he's really enthusiastic about it, he's gonna fill that um, technical gap real quick. So
Yeah.
people will hire you even if you're less technical than somebody else who's just 100% technical but doesn't care about how the company does. Like, that's a turnoff. So
Mhm.
yeah, I would say also be honest about it, to yourself. Like, don't like, even I know this is hard for people to understand, but let's say you were offered, I don't know, $500,000 salary to work for Coinbase, but you didn't like um, Brian Armstrong. You hated the guy and his values, but he's offering you half a mil to, per year. And then there's another company who is offering you maybe 200,000 a year, but you love those people, like those are your people. Now, obviously, the money here is awesome, but how long will you torture yourself? And how much stress will you get from this? Before one day you wake up and you're all stressed out, you're just faking it every single day. It's not good for your health. It's not good for your psyche. It's not good, maybe even for the organization itself is not good, because you're not playing along. And eventually they say like, hey, look, you're an awesome engineer, but your act is like, this is not good, man. And then they let
Yeah.
you go. But and they let you go, and what happens is the worst thing, that other role is now filled by somebody else, you know who is maybe in the same, it's that person is enthusiastic in the same way you were, and you won't be able to get that role anymore. And so not there's a lost opportunity there, because maybe, just maybe, you could have taken that other role, and maybe you could have raised your salary in like a couple years to a 300,000 or something. I don't know, maybe the company did well, and then now
Yeah.
you're happy, and you got a good gig. So I think it's important to recognize this value thing, and just be honest to yourself. What you want to do. Now, if you're after money, I don't blame you. I really don't. Like, go for it, but I would just say it's really not a good idea.
Okay. I also think from a manager's perspective, building a team remotely and being able to build a culture remotely is tough. So if you're not hiring people based on values and things, then it's going to be very difficult to keep that team together, keep everyone on track, keep everyone kind of pointed at the right things. If everyone's got different values, then no one's really getting along. It's just a job. No one's really that involved. Whereas if you hire people based on their values and make sure that everyone has the same kind of mindset, there might be differences of opinion and things, which is obviously really healthy, and you want that in a team. But in terms of the actual core values of someone, it helps really nurture that team culture and that corporate culture, which then kind of keeps people in the business, and in their roles. I think when people were in the office, the culture was more based on the values as well, but you'd see your friends every day. You'd go and speak to people at work, you'd grab a coffee with them, you might grab lunch with them, whatever that might be, and that will keep the team together and kind of keep people in the business. Whereas now, with everyone being remotely, unless the actual job itself is amazing, people can kind of just switch off and they can go find another job and this kind of stuff. So I believe if you hire people based on their actual values, you'll get a lot more longevity in the team and the culture that you build remotely. I'm not sure your thoughts on that, if you've seen similar or not.
Yeah, I think it also, I think it plays into the leadership as well. So I'm going to give you an example from what I did to relax the whole grind thing, and that is that I would reply with memes, like in our Slack communication, and that made people a little bit more relaxed, and got some feedback. Hey, that's cool. Like, we are now communicating in memes. We're joking around, because you can't always be tense and stuff. Like, you need to also show your human side, because we're not robots. at least not yet. So I think I think, yeah, and it's hard to get that emotion across, right? When you're working remotely, like you said, like it's super hard. So but memes are a great way to do that. So if you're in a leadership position, and sometimes there's a chance to do a meme for everybody, and I think people are gonna appreciate it. So obviously, like every leader finds their own way. um like this is what I started doing, and it was actually fun. And then I got
You
memed
haven't
back as well, which
you haven't sent me any memes yet. I'll be expecting all our conversations from now on to have memes in them.
yeah, I promise we'll do it.
So if someone's stepping into a leadership role for the first time, then what piece of advice would you like to give them, or what piece of advice do you wish someone would have given you when you made that first step?
Here's a meme. This is the oof meme, because this is such a difficult question that the oof goes all the way to the it breaks the meter.
Yeah.
No, no, it really does. Like I'm not even exaggerating, because this is such a difficult question. So let me counter question you. Just entertain you for a second. Like, let's
Okay.
say you are about to start your own company. What advice should you be given about starting your own company?
I would say dive straight in, just give everything a go. Get stuck in. Don't be worried if you make mistakes. Don't be worried if things don't go as well as or as to plan as perhaps you thought they would. Um, be open to being adaptable and just getting stuck in. And I think it'll always work out.
Okay, so focus and roll with the punches. um
Yeah.
okay, so I if there's one thing maybe that that would help, then it's something that I mentioned already, and it's something that I had to learn in a very hard way, which is, when you hire people, you have people who are smarter than you, and you have people who maybe aren't as smart as you. And so you already know this in advance. And so what you need to do is you need to decide what you're going to do and what other people are going to do. And so play to your strengths and delegate your weaknesses. Maybe that would be the best advice in that sort of way.
I like that. I like that. I'm going to take on board that piece of advice myself. Actually, moving forward, I like that.
Yeah.
So cool. So moving on to I guess questions about Web3. If you could change something about Web3 in the industry, what would it be?
Well, such an easy question, but has a complex answer. Um,
Okay.
but in order to simplify, which I like to do, I like simplifying things. Uh,
Yeah.
Here's what I would do. So make UI UX designers understand exactly how blockchain functions, because generally speaking, our user experience right now is terrible. It's just, I mean, have any of you tried like using MetaMask for, let's say, 45 minutes continuously and not lose your mind? It's just terrible. Like, if
Yeah.
somebody who didn't know blockchain came to this and started playing with this, they would just say like, this is garbage. Like, well, what is this? Like, this have like this you guys have millions in this? Like, you guys are crazy. So I think that we, as industry, as Web3 industry, we have to fix this. Like, this is the thing that I would change. Like, just teach those UI UX designers understand, just understand how blockchain works, so they will be able to do a better design.
Okay, cool. And why do you think why do you think that needs to be changed? Why would you change that? Is that purely from a mass adoption perspective and an ease of use, or anything else?
Yeah, I think it's more from, yes, mass adoption, but more specifically, easier onboarding. So
Okay.
what you really want to do is you want to reduce the friction as much as possible. um, so let's take, for example, how it was when you first opened your social media account, let's say 10 years ago. They would ask you like, oh, what's your name, what's your last name, what's your dog's name, what's your mom's name, what's your mom's maiden name, and whatever. Like, there's like thousands of
Yeah.
questions, right, that you had to fill out. Now all you do is like you just connect your Google account to it. Like, it's like click 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 over, you're onboarded. So you see that they reduce the friction from somebody requiring, I don't know, 5 minutes to sign in to 10 seconds. That's a rate of improvement. Mag you know that that is insane improvement. Like, it's wow improvement. So so I think something similar, in a similar way, I think we have to fix the Web3. So the people who come to this, that they don't, what concerns me is, and I've seen this with my mom, for example. She sees like some numbers and some letters, and she's like, what's this? And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's not gonna, yeah, yeah, okay, this is not gonna be easy to explain. How do you explain that? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So if there was a way to do it simpler, where it's like, okay, here's your thing that you're using, you just click on this button and you're in, and now you can do whatever you want. If it's like that, now you have a 10x improvement in terms of
Mhm.
usability, and you onboard way more people, and that's the change. That's the, you know order of magnitude change, that where from 1% of the world, we go to like 10% of the whole world
Yeah.
using blockchain.
And obviously, with social media, and as you mentioned there, the onboarding process has changed over time. Social media now has been around for a long time. Let's say a long time. It's been around for a large number of years. Do you think that the Web3 and blockchain space just isn't mature enough yet to develop the good process and the good thing around the UI? Or do you think we should learn from past mistakes and sort it as quickly as possible? Do you think it comes with time, or should we sort it now?
I think it will come. um
Okay.
and the I think it's a little bit of it's an it, I think it's an issue of, when a lot of Web3 projects are open source. So what does that mean? That means that whatever they create, they don't claim the intellectual property necessarily, right? So you can just copy that thing, and you're right there. So you can make these carbon copies easily. And and I think the biggest fear, I guess, from perspective of capital, is like, if I invest, let's say, $10 million into R&D on how to fix this UI UX thing, and now I fix it. Now what is everybody going to do? They're just going to copy it, and I just sunk my entire money into something that now everybody has. So I think there's a
Yeah.
fear of that a little bit, because such things are easy to copy. And anything that's front end facing, it's very easy to copy. So I think there's that fear, and maybe that's the reason why we haven't seen an improvement in that area. um,
Interesting.
but yeah, I think so. I already mentioned like less friction, but there's also the user experience of some of the things, right? there are blockchains that have certain functionalities that are not even represented in any UI. So it there's a lot of work to be done there. So I think if we really put our mind to it, like it can be done and can be simplified and it can be easy. Um, I think that actually the surprisingly the centralized exchanges have done a way better job at this. And I would say because most of their software is obviously closed source, so they never publish their source for obvious reasons, and
Yeah.
and so sometimes they do a better job. So if you have any like Binance application or something, you will have a much better user interface in terms of how you navigate than what you'll get from, I don't know, Uniswap or something. And by the way, so here's a good example, right? When Uniswap first published their I think version 2, everybody copied that, right? And it was a really badly written code in TypeScript. Like it was a really bad code. Like I have to say, like I've never seen, like it's almost as I don't know. They just hired a bunch of juniors and they just hit the keyboard and something came out. It's a weird thing. um Now obviously it's much better now. They've improved it a lot. It even on a smart contract level, it's way more robust. And you could see that the grown-ups took over and fixed it. But yeah, that is a little bit of something that I worry about. Like I'm hoping we speed up this UI UX improvements. But
Okay.
honestly, I don't know where it comes from. Like, does somebody do it and then everybody copies? Does one of the big Web3 companies do it? I don't know. We'll see.
Interesting. So, in your opinion, then, what are some of the other challenges which we need to overcome before blockchain becomes mainstream, or before
Um,
Web3
others.
becomes mainstream?
I don't. I honestly don't think there's anything else to fix. I But UI UX, and the reason I say it is because a lot of things are tied to UI UX. Um,
Mhm.
I would say that, let's say you're trying to do a trade. You're trying to swap something, and then your transaction is not going through. Now it would be very nice if the feedback from the software is something that human can understand, not some weird error from Solidity. So the, but this is, like I said, this is all tied to UI and user experience, which is, if you make it so that it's easy to understand what's happening. Like, let's say I'm doing that swap. Now it should go somewhere and say, like, hey, your transaction is in the mempool right now, and it's going to be processed in about, I don't know, 10 12 seconds. And then it's like, you know kind of a some kind of timer or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But those are the sort of solutions that I'm thinking about, which people are used to, right, in other areas. And so they would see that, like, oh, this makes sense. Okay, there's no more ambiguity. There's no more mystery behind this. It's all just very nicely done, and you understand exactly what's happening with your transaction, and so on.
Mhm.
And then, for example, once, let's say that your transaction fails, like one of the craziest things to me still is that it actually says your transaction failed. You know how much fear that puts in a person who doesn't understand what that means. Like, I can totally imagine somebody,
Yeah.
oh, I just sent like $2,000 to somebody else and it failed. Oh wow. Oh no, I just lost 2,000. No, you didn't. It should be like, something else. Use a different word. Say like, your transaction was not successful, please try again. How about something like
Mhm.
that, which all humans in the world can understand, instead of, your transaction failed, because that's very, like, scary. So
Yeah.
I think, these are small improvements, but improve them and you get a way better experience. You can easily onboard people. So yeah, I'm kind of repeating myself, but
That's
that's
cool.
that's really, yeah, that's really what I see.
No. No, makes sense. Makes sense. And this might be quite a difficult question to answer because it's quite a big question. But say you weren't at Energy, you wanted to stay within the Web3 space, you're given an unlimited pot of money, unlimited resources, you had a huge amount of time. Any particular challenge or any particular project you'd love to have a go at getting stuck into?
Yeah, I have a joke about that. I would I would move a bunch of population over to Mars and start there. But jokes aside, I would so here's what I would do. I would improve security and simplify it. And so I think there's a way to do it. And actually, this is not my idea. It's one of my teammates' ideas. I just expanded on it a little bit. So, and the idea is this. So you would have two types of accounts. Just like, for example, now any type of organization has hot and cold wallet, right? you know Cold wallet is usually, you kind of have your keys, you throw them away, and nobody touches this. And then you have hot wallet where it's kind of exposed, and even if you get hacked, like kind of funds are safe and all that stuff. um
Mhm.
Now what I would do is I would do this on a protocol level. So um when you're creating new account on a blockchain, it would ask you, hey, what kind of account you want to have. Do you want to have account which is open to anything, so if you send something to a wrong address, you're done? Or you want to have an account that is secure account, meaning that if you send a transaction, it's not going to be immediate. It's going to take some time before it propagates over, or it's going to take some time before it's added to the mempool, or it's going to or however the design would be. So I think that is a way. And also I I think there would be a way to revert that, right? So if you, for example, if you made a mistake, you sent something to a wrong account, and you notice that, and you're like, oh, I made a mistake, I got scammed or something. Then you will be able to revert that with this security type of account. You'll be like, okay, I want to revert this. You pay some fee, and boom, your funds are back. So how would that work in practicality? Well, let's say I'm sending you $1 million in Ether, and my account is secure, and I send it to you. I think I'm sending it to you, but then you realize, hey man, like I don't see it pop up on my side. Like I'm not seeing anything, and then I check. Oh, I made a mistake. Like I trimmed one character or something, or
Yeah.
got replaced or something. And boom, now what I can do is I can say like, okay, cancel this one. I'm gonna pay some fee, obviously, because it should be some kind of penalty for making a mistake. On the blockchain, boom, you pay that fee, you get those funds back to your protected wallet, and do it again. So I think it would require a lot of cryptographic R&D to get this done. So since you
Mhm.
said like unlimited amount of money, I would just hire a bunch of you know brains. um you know I have a few in mind that would definitely. I'll hire Vitalik as well. So like, stop working on Ethereum, come, let's do this. This is gonna be an improvement. It's gonna catapult Ethereum to wherever. So let's
Yeah.
do it. So yeah, but that generally what I would do. Just something on a security side. And to be honest, I haven't really thought this through, if this concept actually makes sense or not. Maybe it doesn't, but
Okay.
just my gut feeling tells me it actually is a good idea, and a good concept for the future. Because usually when you're working on security, you're giving up something else. So I'm just wondering here, what am I giving up, in exchange for this security feature? So maybe there's some other thing that technically, um, would have to give up for in order to get this. It's just like for example, with anonymity, right? So if you want to have something anonymous, you have to give up something else, and that's just the way it is. So it's the same here. So like I said, I haven't really thought this through in completely, but it's something that I really love to do.
Interesting. Interesting. Cool. So to wrap up, then, as a leader in Web3, what advice would you give to someone looking to follow in your footsteps? Someone wants to become a VP of engineering. I know we've spoken about lots of different bits of advice there. Overall, any kind of closing statement, any piece of advice you'd love to give?
Yeah, have courage. Don't be afraid of rejections. Keep working hard. There are a lot of opportunities in the space, and this space will never run out of opportunities. It will never get boring. So yeah, just keep at it.
Great. Good advice. Well, yeah, Leon, thank you very much for your time today. It's been great to speak to you. You shared
Sure,
some
thank
brilliant
you.
advice there. Hopefully, people listening will find it useful. If anyone wants to reach out to you, ask you any questions, things like that, are they okay to drop you a note on LinkedIn or something and just reach out and start having a chat? Is that something that's possible?
Yeah, one of the good things about me is I have one of those names that nobody else has in the world. So if you go to any platform and just type in my first name and last name together, like you're gonna get me. So if you go to Twitter, it's Leon Dolinar. If you go to, I also have a Substack, so maybe we can add that as well. It's very simple. It's just the first two letters of my name and the first two letters of my last name. So ledo.substack.com. So if you go there, I started writing just 2 weeks ago, so it's pretty fresh for me. It's one of endeavor because I want to continue, giving advice, helping people in the space. So it's kind of my goal on
Great.
leadership and software and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, that's how people can reach me, as well as LinkedIn. Yeah, like you said. Um,
Perfect.
well, one thing that I do want to say, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity because this is my first podcast ever. So um, and we all remember our first, as the saying goes. So yeah, I want to really thank you, Jack. It's been a great honor to do this.
No, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you taking the time to do it. You shared some brilliant advice, and you should podcast more often. Maybe set up your
Yeah,
own, and then I'll
absolutely.
come on yours.
Yeah, I have to do something. I kind of thinking about it a lot recently. To kind of go expose myself a little bit more publicly. Because right now I'm a little bit rusty in terms of this. Like anything else, you don't have much experience. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to start something like that.
No, you should. I was chatting. A guest of mine last week was talking through how he puts himself out there, and he actually has a YouTube channel where he talks about various different topics. He posts regularly on LinkedIn and kind of gets his face out there, and he's a big advocate of building a personal brand. And actually, how he got his role is a chap called Michael. He's the VP of engineering at Dat Radar. And how Michael got his role was actually Dat Radar approached him from his YouTube channel because he was explaining technical things, or he'd record himself talking about various different topics, and they then approached him and said, "Look, we've got a really interesting role. We think you'd be great. Come and join us." So that's the power of putting yourself out there and stuff. I guess it's quite daunting, I suppose, to record yourself and get stuff out there. There's going to be people who really like it and also people who really don't. So I guess you just have to be okay with that and something to get used to. But yeah, once that episode is released, I'll send it across to you, or I'm sure Michael will be okay with you reaching out to him as well and have a chat with him about how he did it and what he does and that sort of stuff. But I can put you guys in touch.
Yeah, sure, that would be great. Uh, Yeah, I think you know what Michael's saying here makes a lot of sense to me because if you compare to how are you familiar with Alex Hormozy? Have you ever seen some of his videos?
No.
So Alex is a guy who raised a lot of money, and he has his own fund and stuff like that. So yeah, check him out on YouTube. But basically, he talks about businesses. How to start a business. How to play all that game, that startup game, and all that stuff. And one of the things he said, and he put it perfectly, is like, you don't want to you don't want to start 10 things. You want to start one thing, do it well, iterate, repeat, and then when you feel you're master of that, then scale it. And then, if when you scaled it, if you really really feel that you have enough energy to start a new thing, then start a new thing. So I
Yeah.
think you could apply this same thing for putting yourself out there, like Michael says. Like, just do it, repeat it, then you get comfortable, and eventually you can scale, different media, different, whatever you're doing. And yeah, so I think that's a great advice.
Yeah, that's great. I'm going to check out Alex. Did you say Alex? What was his surname?
Alex
Sorry,
Hormozy.
Alex Hormozy. I'm
Hormozy.
going to check him out.
H. Yeah, yeah.
Cool, cool. No, I'll look into that. But yeah, Leon, thank you very much. I'll
Thank you,
catch up with
Jack.
you soon. Thanks very much for your time. Take care.
Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.